Yeah, still looking good. Okay. Great start.
Oh, are you recording?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Alright guys, welcome back to another video. This one is another story time video, and it is all about his delivery. He just ate, so he is snoozing. Excuse me? Oh, I heard that.
That's my belly.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Just her belly. Yeah, so the last video we talked about how we had spent the entire day cleaning and moving around and all that stuff, and it made her go into early labor.
Yeah, so I started having contractions around 9. I sat down and immediately contractions started, but it was very irregular. We started to go to bed at 11, and as I start laying down, it starts getting a little bit closer together. So Josh helped me count while I was trying to breathe through them. Our sheet of paper that we got from the doctor said if it's 4 minutes apart and lasts for about 45 seconds. So it threw me off because I went from irregular to 2 minutes.
Yeah, and every 2 minutes she was having a new contraction.
I was 3 weeks early. So I called the doctor's office, or I called the hospital, and the nurse on staff said, go ahead and make our way in. He's gonna call the doctor on call, and it looks like we're gonna have a good day. I was like,
yeah,
great.
Like, what? We were thinking it's 3 weeks early. There's no way that, it's probably just one of those false labor things. You hear about them all the time. Like, people go to the hospital, then they go back home because it's too early.
Especially with your first kid, I've been told multiple times, he's gonna come either on time or late. But he's never gonna come early, which is ironic because everyone at work is saying, you're not gonna make it to your due date. You're not gonna make it to your due date.
Well, at one point he was tracking a week ahead, but then it normalized again. But yeah, it was just so crazy. So we had like 3 rounds of snow in Nashville as well. So this was night 1, I guess, that it was first snowing, and it didn't really stick. We didn't really have anything to worry about because it had just started snowing. But I'm driving to the hospital in snow, so that's how it started.
And just know we're not prepared. No. I'm glad
we were
bag.
prepared, but we weren't prepared for 3 weeks early.
Yeah, I was glad I packed a hospital bag, and I only did that because when we went to Knoxville, I think 2 weeks prior, I had contractions because I was stressed out because we were traveling with the dogs. I had to work that day and wake up early, so I was just all out of sorts. So I was having Braxton Hicks. So I think what caused my contractions now was stress related. So when we got there, they checked us in, and kind of threw me off because when we walked in, of course, we got checked by the COVID screening, and then we walked in to talk to the nurse at the desk, and I told Josh to go ahead because I had to stop to breathe.
Yeah, she was in the hallway, and I'm like talking to the person trying to do paperwork.
And the lady's like, "Are you on labor?" I'm like, "No, I'm just crouched down on the floor trying to breathe."
She's like doubled over completely in the hallway. Like, yeah, no, it's fine. Feel fine.
Like, I just wanted to come and check out the hospital at 11 o'clock at night.
Look at the floor for a second. No problem.
I didn't think she needed anything else from me, so I went and sat down in their little seats because I could not stand anymore. I just was tired. And Josh filled out the rest of the paperwork, and then they got me back into the ER section. And when they checked me out, they said everything was fine, and I was already 2 centimeters dilated.
Yeah, so when you first got there, you were 1. They checked you an hour later because we were in that room for like 3 hours, I think.
It felt long, but also felt short.
It might have just been 2, but when she first got there, it was 1 centimeter. And then they checked her again after like an hour, and she was what she called a type 2. And then I think it was either 30 minutes or an hour after that, they checked her again, and she was a loose 2. So she was definitely going into labor, and that's how they could judge that. They didn't know if it was legit or not either, so
because I'm 3 weeks early. But what threw everybody off was the way my contractions were. It was still 2 minutes lasted for 30 seconds.
So once she was the loose 2, then they had us go to the delivery room, and that's where we were for most of the time.
And it kind of sucked too because of COVID, they were only allowed to have 2 people. So it was Josh and my mom. But I thought we could have people swap, so my mom and dad were going to swap off. But no, once my mom went into the room, it was my mom and Josh only. No one else can come to the room. They cannot swap, no nothing. Once mom leaves or Josh leaves, if they do not return, I cannot have a second person in that room again.
2 people, period.
So,
the same 2 people, and that's it.
Dad waited in the parking lot until
6 a.m.
Yeah, until he figured out if I was actually going to stay or not.
So we got to the hospital at 12:30. When we got got into the emergency part of the room. Once we were in the delivery room, her dad waited around until 6, and then he just went back home. So he probably could have left a lot sooner than that, because we were there for a while.
Yeah, because we didn't know if I was gonna stay. He didn't know if Mom was gonna stay, but that's where we stayed. And it sucked too because I was, of course, in pain. I did not like the contractions and the feelings. When I was in the ER, they said that when we get to the delivery room, they'll give me an epidural. It felt like freaking forever until they gave me the epidural. But when they finally gave me the epidural, it felt so much better. But I was shaking. They said it was because of hormones, but I was just shaking. I felt like I was cold, but I wasn't cold. The second part was that they had to insert a catheter because when you get an epidural, you can't get up because, of course, your legs are numb. So they had put a catheter in, but I could feel the catheter. Later, I realized, much later, like after delivery.
Hold on, with the catheter part, it also took them forever. They said that they would be back in like 5 minutes to do it. It took them like half an hour to get back, and she's on an IV, and she's like, I gotta pee. And so I had
to, I'm on an IV, like I can't move. Like
I had already called the nurse too, and I had to call him again. I'm like, look, she's about to pee because she can't walk to the bathroom, and you guys didn't put the catheter in. So yeah, there was that part.
But yeah, I kept telling the nurse, like, my bowel feels full, and she goes, well, your catheter's in and it's flowing. I was like, okay, but it still feels full. It's either it's full or I can feel a catheter, one of the two, but something's not right. He agrees. He felt it too.
He's grunting.
So she kept checking. She readjusted it. She retaped it and everything. She goes, well, everything's going good. We'll just, unless you want me to like redo it, I'm fine. I'll deal with it. I don't even know how long it lasted. The epidural finally just wore off. It did not help the entire time. I was having the contractions and I could feel them again. And then, so they brought another anesthesiologist in to check it. They checked it. They said it didn't slip. It looks great. So they gave me a little bit more drugs in my IV, and then they left. So I was fine for a little bit, and then it wore off again. So then they brought in another anesthesiologist, and he redid my epidural, and then he gave me a fentanyl shot and
that was later on though. I don't think it was right away. I think he gave you a little bit extra. I don't remember what it was. He called it a cocktail. He said that that was just for the immediate until the epidural was going to take place, because that guy came back another time.
Well, I remember he came back another time and he said he couldn't give me the same thing that I did have, so that wasn't the fentanyl shot.
Okay, well maybe it was then. I don't know.
So because like I was in so much pain for so long, they redid the epidural, and then they gave me the fentanyl shot because I felt great afterwards.
For an hour.
For an hour, I felt great. I felt like nothing happened. I was like, oh, I can take a nap. And then an hour happened, and I was just back in labor pains again. Like I felt all my contractions. So then they brought the anesthesiologist in again. He checked it, and because I was so close to push time, they said that I could not have what I had before, because what before was a C-section, was medications for C-section, and I of course wasn't having a C-section, so they couldn't give it to me. They wanted me to be able to push, so they gave me something else, but it didn't help. And he says you can always press the button to put more, but you can only push it once every 45 minutes.
So she would get the regular dose every hour, and then there was a 45-minute hold time on the extra dose, and she was having me try to push it after 15 minutes, and I'm like, this isn't good.
He kept telling me, he's like, it's not gonna work. I was like, I don't care. I want you to push that button. I need to see you press the button. I don't care if nothing falls through. I need to see you press the button, and I need to know it's not working.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. Just you could tell that she was just in pain the entire time, and every single nurse that came in, they would look at the machine, because every time there's a contraction, you can see a little line go up, and that's the contraction, and it was just so much. Every single nurse that came in, they were just like, she's been dealing with that this whole time? Like, yeah.
Yeah, 14 hours of it.
Yeah, labor was 14 hours total, or at least from the time that we got to the hospital.
Oh, they broke my water.
Yeah.
That felt really weird.
It was crazy too, because I was there and I heard it. I didn't see it really. I think I saw a little bit come out from the side. It's just like they're poking a water balloon, and it sounded like a cartoon water splash or something. It was so crazy. I wasn't expecting that.
It felt so weird. So around 6 centimeters when they broke it. And that's the point where it was time I could push, but it wasn't quite time because his head wasn't going past the cervix.
The anterior lip.
So they're trying to move him around or move it around. I don't know what they're trying to do down there.
So they were trying to like push it while you were pushing. They were trying to push it around his head.
Yeah.
But the nurse that we had, her fingers weren't long enough, so another nurse came in and she was like, hey, I'm the nurse with the long fingers. But I guess once we got past that part, it was okay. But before that, they had you laying on your side.
They put me on my side to where my right leg had to be up on a little the stirrup. I sat there for forever to the point where I finally felt the epidural on my left side.
Just one side only.
The one that was down on the cot.
But they did say that it would happen like that too.
The right side had no epidural. Like, I know it was gonna flush back and forth, but it's weird that both legs were down. I felt everything. But I turned on one side, then one side couldn't feel anything, the other side I could. And I kept calling for the nurse, saying, I need my nurse. Because I didn't know if I was allowed to get up, because I know they were trying to move things around. So I got to the point where I started feeling sick, because I haven't eaten in forever, and I was starving.
Yeah,
so
I had to call him and tell him that she was about to throw up, and then that got him there pretty quick.
So I felt like I was going to puke. So they finally came in. I was already up. I was like, I don't care. They're taking forever. I sat up, and I was like, if I puke, I puke. I don't know what's going on with this epidural. I need to sit up. Like, I'm not going to get up. I just need to sit up.
But before that point, when she was on her side, they would have her rotate to the other side. And when that would happen, with him, it turned out that his umbilical cord was wrapped around his throat. So every time she would switch positions, it would kind of pinch it a little bit and his heart rate would drop, like pretty dramatically. Cut in half, really, because it was like 140, 150.
Yeah.
And then it would go down to like 60 or 70.
So the entire time since we got to the hospital, they were talking about a potential C-section. I had to sign paperwork for potential C-sections.
They were making it sound like it was probably going to happen.
Halfway through labor, I was like, I kind of want a C-section because this is painful as heck. I even told Josh, like, this is our one kid. We ain't going to do another one.
Yeah.
If this doesn't happen again, we're not going to go through this.
I guess after that, it was actually push time because it happened all so fast. They were still having me trying to check her into the hospital. And she's like been in labor forever now. And they're still like, well, you need to check into the hospital. I'm like, we're here. We're in the hospital.
But
I think it's okay.
It's like the COVID questions, and then you have to update your insurance and your driver's license, which I didn't bring my wallet because it was just the last thing I forgot because I wasn't driving. I was like, I don't need
she didn't have her license, so I'm trying to text her dad to get me a picture of her license, and he sent one. I uploaded to the thing, and it says, now upload the back of the license. I'm like, oh my God. So I had to text him back like, hey, I need the back of it too. Meanwhile, she is actively pushing during all of that going on too. It's just so much happening. I feel like she's over here, not dealing with this dang paperwork. I think it was about the time that the doctor was actually supposed to come in, but the nurse gets you like almost ready. The nurse gets you from here to here, and then the doctor comes in and gets you from here to here, which is outside. So the nurse was like, oh, he's got so much hair. She had me come and look at it, and yeah, sure enough, you just see all this hair down here. And I didn't realize, but they have this little vial of oil that they rub around just so it's easier for babies to come out that have a lot of hair. So that was interesting.
Yeah, he's like, do you want to look? I'm like, no. He goes, I can take a picture and show you. He's like, no. Like after me going through all this, I do not want to see what's happening down there. Don't care to.
But yeah, shortly after that, the doctor came in, and then it was go time. And once his head came out, he came out, no problem.
He got to the point where they're like, okay, stop pushing. I was like, nope. I gotta keep pushing. Like, it hurts really, really bad.
Because the doctor was getting ready, and she's like putting her gloves on and everything. The nurse was like transitioning away. They were like, okay, you need to wait for the doctor. And she was like, no, I have to push. And they're like, okay, if you have to push. Yeah, so he came out. They put him on her immediately.
But when he came out, the doctor and the nurse were both like, oh.
Yeah, so that's why. And the umbilical cord was just wrapped around his neck.
Yeah, because they're all worried about what's going on with his heart rate.
So they laid him on KN, and they start cleaning him up and rubbing his chest and everything, trying to get him to cry, and he did the cry for the first time, so we actually got that on camera.
There we go. Oh.
I'm gonna need some water soon, by the way. Not there yet, and I'm thinking about this for you.
I cut the umbilical cord, which I guess I know it was a thing, but I wasn't really expecting it, so it kind of caught me off guard. And then they took him over to the little table. They're just cleaning him up over there, but as soon as they put him down, he rolls over on his side. I'm like, what? That's weird. They get him all cleaned up, give him back to, I think they gave him to me first, since they were still having to clean you up and everything. But they gave him to me, and he's making all these sounds, and all the nurses are like, oh, they're so cute. And then the one that actually deals with babies was like, that's not normal. And it turns out that he had amniotic fluid in his lungs, so he's making all these noises because he couldn't really breathe that well. Which isn't an issue now, but at the time it was an issue just because we couldn't lay him flat, and if we did, then he would just make little sounds, and it was a nightmare once we actually got to the room.
Yeah, when we got upstairs, there's only one other person could be with me.
Just me and her, that's it, the whole time. Which also wouldn't have been a big deal, but they were doing reconstruction on the nursery. So the nursery was out of the question for us. They took him first, like right away, just because of the amniotic fluid situation. But after that, he was just with us the whole time. So like, we're new parents, we're already exhausted because we were up all day Sunday, up all day after that for the delivery. It was 14 hours, and then still haven't been to sleep yet. Every time we lay him flat, he would just make these noises. It's not even like he was really crying, but every little noise would just wake us up. So we're getting like 10 minutes of sleep, and then we'd have to wake up because he was making some sort of noise.
And then I had a fever during delivery, so then afterwards I had to have multiple rounds of different antibiotics that's hooked up by IV. So every single time the bag was done, it would just beep constantly.
Until somebody came in and turned it off.
So as soon as like he'd be down, we'd probably fall asleep for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then the IV would beep over and over until I got the nurse in there. And I felt like I was annoying the nurses because I was like, my IV, and they're like, I'll get your nurse. I'm like, IV,
it's not your
I'll
fault.
get your nurse.
I mean, it is what it is, but I don't know, it was just exhausting because we didn't have any relief. We didn't have another person in there just be like, hey, can you watch him, because we are exhausted. We didn't have that option. We didn't have the nursery. We couldn't do anything. We just had to survive on our own.
You got to the point where I just didn't sleep. If he started not really like crying, but like doing his cooing where he couldn't breathe, I would just take him out of his little bassinet and just hold him until a nurse came in or Josh woke up. I was like, great, I'm gonna put him down and you deal with him while I take a mini nap.
So the next day, because we spent 2 nights in the hospital, so Tuesday, I know that I'm leaving. I left her about noon. He was sleeping like this, and it was supposed to be great sleep while I was gone. But again, she had the IV situation, so like every 15 minutes, somebody was coming in to check on her. But I had to leave because we didn't have the car seat set up. And we had plans that next weekend, if it was just 1 week later, we were gonna have the car detailed, get it completely cleaned out, and then we were gonna put the car seat in there. So I had to go get the car cleaned, and then I had to figure out how to put the car seat in on my own, and it was a little stressful, but I got it to work, came back to the hospital with food. Then that night, it was Tuesday night, they had the nursery, and it was so nice. I guess waking up and feeding him every 3 hours wasn't too bad because he wasn't really crying because we were actually waking him up. It was just the amniotic fluid thing was the biggest issue, but actually being able to send him to the nursery to be looked after was amazing. We had great sleep that night, 6 hours, pretty solid. And then Wednesday, we're just waiting around to get discharged. And it took him like 5 hours after she had to be looked at, he had to be looked at. They had both been looked at and they both seemed like it was okay. And then they're just waiting on the paperwork to come through, and it never came through. And the nurse was eventually just like, I guess we're just gonna let you go.
Which is good because apparently the next day was more snow.
Not only that, it had continued snowing when we were in the hospital. So when we were driving home, we had to get him buckled in the first time. He looked freaking tiny in there, just all scrunched up. On the way home, there was actually snow on the roads. Going into labor, it was snowing. Going home from the hospital, there was snow on the ground. And then it was supposed to snow that night, I think.
Yeah.
Which it did.
Pediatrician's office called me to get him scheduled for Friday, which we know was supposed to be snowy. Like, I guess if you don't think there's gonna be snow, they called me. It's supposed to be Friday. They canceled it because it actually did snow, and we finally went in on Saturday, which there's snow on the ground. But
Actually,
it was
snow on the ground.
kind of drivable, depending on where you were.
Not in our neighborhood.
So Josh was driving really slow and careful. And
It's
I was
just crazy,
sitting behind there, over my body over the car seat, just to make sure he was okay.
Just like all of the snow and everything happened right in this perfect little window. So yeah, it was a crazy time. We've been talking for 26 minutes. I was not expecting this to go that long.
Why not? It's a story.
It is a story,
A story
but
can't be done in like 5 minutes.
so I guess the stuff that we had to deal with afterwards, you know, the umbilical cord, which ended up not being a big deal. We had him circumcised in the hospital. I guess now the way they do it is like the little ring thing ended up not being a big deal. It looks a little funky, but
Yeah, the ring.
I mean, at the time, now it looks normal.
The ring threw me off. I was just like, which is really weird. Because with dogs, I can't. Because I was a vet tech, I mess with them all the time. I don't care about ticks. I don't care about blood. I don't care about oozing stuff. But when it came to his circumcision and his umbilical cord, I'm just like,
She didn't want to touch it.
I can't do it. I was like, Josh, you got to do it. I can't look at it. I can't touch it. Mm-mm.
We've been dealing with issues with him breastfeeding. He can't get a good latch and all that stuff. So he's been mainly bottle feeding, but it turned out that he had a lip tie and a tongue tie, which we did make a video for, so that one will be coming soon. And we're probably going to need to do an update about all that stuff, see his progression and all that. But other than all that, he's been okay. We did have a little, it was like a week where we were dealing with gas, and it was just keeping him up all night.
Which was the whole issue with the tongue tie.
He's been eating real good though. He had his 2-week checkup, and the 2-week checkup, the babies are supposed to be at their birth weight because they lose weight in the first like week or so. So when he was born, we didn't even go over all the stats. He was 7 pounds and 18.5 inches, and he was born at 1:44 p.m.
On January 3rd, 2022.
January 3rd, 2022. He was 7 pounds. 2-week update, he was 7 pounds, 10 ounces. So he surpassed that by a lot.
Now he's
Gonna be a big boy.
10 pounds and 3 ounces.
He's over 10 pounds now. We're actually recording this when it's his 6-week birthday. That just shows how behind we are. And it's been very difficult to get anything done with him. But I think we're getting a good routine going. Anything else? Last chance. So I guess that is it. Just wanted to kind of go over the crazy day of the delivery and how Can kind of did it almost natural birth in a way. And for all you new parents out there, take advantage of the nursery. If they have it open, just do it. You don't need to see your baby that much in the first day. You need to sleep. So take advantage of the nursery.
Yes, because I was trying to fill out his birth certificate because I was just so sleep deprived. I kept looking at him like, is that how you spell Lincoln? Is that how you spell Beckett? I was like, oh my God, am I putting the right date down?
They stopped recording. Oh, that's the other thing too. Biggest thing is go to the lactation specialist.
If you wish to breastfeed, yes, lactation specialist is very helpful.
Which we will be going over in another video. Anyway, this has been going on for too long.
What are you doing? You didn't like that position anymore? You can stay right there.
We definitely have more videos coming. We're starting to get into the groove of recording videos about him and all that, so we're trying. I'm having to figure out when I'm actually going to edit videos and all that, and I'm still tired, so it might be a little bit, but I am trying my best. But anyway, that is it, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Hi. He says bye too, but he's passed out.
He just made a face. He was like...